first of all, the way that our political system is set up, it really is a two-party system. And people who have tried that, even with a lot of money or prestige, so it was not going to work. And I think people went to him and said, you may not like the end of the EV mandates, and you might feel that you weren't appreciated after you spent, almost $300 million, and you concentrated it in places like Pennsylvania that helped Trump. And you may be angry that the Doge took your neutral reputation and your endorsement of Trump after the first assassination, and it hurt your brand and people have boycotted you, all that. But if you take reflection, Donald Trump will not stop SpaceX flights. Not like Gavin Newsom has said to Musk, our California coastal mission will not let you fly out of launch out of Vandenberg missile space base. We don't do things like that. And if you're smart, you'll see that while you've had disagreements with Trump and you rashly and unwisely accused him of being in the Epstein files in a injurious fashion, he's the only thing you got, Elon. And you can square this circle by you don't have to humiliate yourself and go back and beg for Trump's forgiveness. All you have to do is say you're not going to have a third party to injure the Republicans in the midterms. And then you can look at J.D. Vance, and that will be helping Donald Trump because it will continue the MAGA tradition. It will help them in the midterms, and you can kind of save your conservative credentials by backing J.D. Vance, who has, after all, he worked with Peter Thiel in the financial, or he knows the people very well in Silicon Valley. And he agrees with almost everything you say, so it's a logical move. And I think Trump endorses it.
America's political system may be stubbornly fixed, but the electorate is anything but static. As cities change and party loyalties shift, old narratives lose their hold. Voters aren't falling for the same divide and blame tactics. Instead, they're demanding real accountability. Results over rhetoric. The cracks in the two-party firewall aren't just visible. They're growing. When everyday experience overrides legacy messaging, it's a sign that the system is overdue for genuine change. With the rules rewritten by shifting demographics and a public tired of distraction, leaders and parties who cling to old formulas risk being left behind. Americans are seeking honesty and effectiveness, not dogma. The urgency now, more than ever, is to embrace reality and reform before frustration turns into outright rejection of the status quo.
Everybody in the Black community has remarked that the crime rate is very dangerous. It's completely out of control. We know that people are leaving blue states, I think 6 to 8 million a year. There's going to be 10 to 15 congressional seats that will change in the 2030 census. We know that people in Minnesota, Los Angeles, if you go down to downtown Minnesota or you look at what Los Angeles has become, the downtown, we know these big blue cities are dying. New York may survive because of Wall Street, but not if Mamdani is elected. So you would think there would be self-criticism, there would be self-reflection. No, it's the same old thing. Can't we find some white person who's responsible for this so that we don't have to account for this type of behavior? And this behavior was not unusual. You see it with the mass looting. You saw it with the mass shoplifting. You saw it again and again after the George Floyd. And the problem that I feel bad about these Black leaders, they just keep talking about this and they won't address the problems, and they think it's a white-black issue. It's not. It is not a white-black issue. It is a Black issue that everybody in the United States is worried about, the Black crime rate. It's Hispanics are worried about it. Asians are worried about it. It's been directed with a knockout game against traditional Jews. We saw it in San Francisco where Asians were targeted. The Hispanic community has been at odds with the Black, and it all revolves around that people who live in large cities, especially in blue states, but not exclusively so. Memphis is a very dangerous place. I stayed there once 4 days, and it was frightening to walk around there. And I can tell you that it's not a white-black thing. It is, and it's not a it is a black thing too. The black elite and upper middle class. We get back to 50 years ago, Jesse Jackson infamously said that when I walk down the street and I see somebody walking behind me and I turn and I find out it's not a black youth, I feel relieved. He said that. But there's no attention. Obama never talks about it. Trump is the only person who has the guts. And even he was careful in his language. He didn't say, I'm going in there because it's a 75. Well, now I think it's most of the black middle class is leaving Washington. So I don't even think it's 75% black anymore, because the upper middle class that have really good, mostly government jobs, live in the suburbs. And why did they leave? They left because they didn't feel safe. And they knew that they couldn't speak out against it. And it's not going to change until people just say, and you know what is final observation? 50 years ago, racist, if you were called a racist, that was a career-ending epithet. And today, unfortunately, it means nothing. They have used that so promiscuously to anybody they disagree with as a political tool that it's kind of a joke now. And so people are going, I think their collective attitude is, we're going to treat everybody the same in a multiracial postmodern society 65 years after the civil rights movement. We've had a $20 trillion massive transfer of capital to the Great Society programs. We started affirmative action in 1965. We supercharged it with DEI. We've done all of these things, and we're more polarized than ever. And we've created the largest black middle class and professional class and wealthy class in history. And yet the leadership is mostly still left-wing and still using the race card. And we're just going to have to ignore it. And I think that's what everybody's attitude is now. And that's why they're so frustrated, because 26% of black males voted for Donald Trump. 55% of Hispanic males voted for Donald Trump. 49% of all Hispanics voted for Donald Trump. There was a really astute and alarming observation by a Democratic pollster and Get Out the Person, an expert on Democratic registration. And he pointed out that the Republicans, for the first time in history, are out registering voters in states, and that isn't the worst of it. He says our strategy of going into the black and Hispanic and Asian communities and just trying to register anybody we can is a mistake. He said, from now on, we need to target left-wing people and ask that question, because we are registering people who vote against us. And that's what killed us in the 2024. The white vote was pretty much at 57 to 59% in 2016, 2020, and 2024. However, what killed us in 2024 was a marked increase in the Hispanic vote in particular, a little incremental bump with women, a little bit larger with youth, and 26% of the black male vote. It's not a large number, but it was enough to account for that 1.7 million person margin.
If you value honest analysis and real conversations, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments. What did we miss, and what should we tackle next? Your voice makes this community stronger. Let's keep pushing for the truth together.